Okay, welcome everyone. It's kind of great to see people from all over. Erin and I actually are not hosting this from the same location. She's out in you're in San Diego, and I'm from New York, but I'm here giving this presentation from New Jersey today. Today we are giving the remote teaching for early learners webinar. This content is geared for pre-K through grade 3 and transitioning from that to that online remote classroom learning. My name is Michelle, and this is my co-host Erin. We're both learning leaders with Eduscape. Eduscape is a company that works to challenge educators to rethink learning by designing solutions that inspire inquiry, creativity, and collaboration. Before we get started with today, we're going to go through our agenda and our learner outcomes. We're going to start the presentation with getting started. Some of you maybe have already started your remote learning or online platform. Some of you maybe haven't, or maybe you're doing a mix where you're starting with review with students and you're and stuff. We're going to take a look at what considerations or what you may want to try or know when you're building that online classroom or as you're continuing to develop it. Then we'll go into considerations, what about the parents, the students, and you as a teacher may want to ask moving forward. Then talking about that, adjusting that classroom material, what content you already have, how you're going to use it on that online platform. And this is where we'll talk about different resources that you can use as well. The last 10 minutes will be dedicated to a Q&A session, and that's where we'll answer any questions that you have still lingering from the presentation. Our learner outcomes are: learn to organize your virtual classroom, discover new norms to ensure the efficiency of instruction, explore best-in-class educational apps that are free, review the instructional design for remote teaching. Before we get started, let's take a look at some of the logistics, navigation, and even some troubleshooting suggestions that we had before in case you have any questions during the webinar. First of all, if you have any questions, of course, we'd love to answer them. The chat is not the place to ask your questions, though. There in the bottom tab, there's a Q&A where you found that little chat bubble to have that conversation. There's a Q&A button too. The Q&A is going to be where we answer all of your questions. Also, so you know, this webinar is being recorded. We're letting you know for 2 reasons. 1, we're practicing our good digital citizenship skills by sharing this with you. 2, we want you to know that you're actually going to get a copy of this video, the webinar today. It's going to be emailed to you within 40 hours after we finish. Some logistics of Zoom. Your video mic have been turned off automatically for this presentation. However, if you use Zoom again, you can find those usually in the bottom left. Like we said, that Q&A tab is at the bottom of your screen. The chat that you may be using right now already, it's going to be used throughout the presentation. This is a place to share your ideas, share what you're doing already when you're remote teaching or as you're transferring, share what's working great for you, share what resources you have, and that's a place to collaborate with each other. And again, in the chat, please make sure that it says to all panelists and all attendees. That way everyone can see what you're posting. Some troubleshooting support is the following. If you have any issues viewing or your viewing's disrupted at all through the presentation, press Control plus F5 on your keyboard. This will refresh to the browser. Check your computer speakers are not muted and the volume's up. You'd be surprised. We have webinars where people can't hear us and they think it's on our end, but it's actually your speakers weren't loud enough or turned on. If you need further troubleshooting help, there is a troubleshooting guide by clicking the information button and the help. And then last but not least, there is closed captioning available during this presentation. We're going to get started by taking a look at 2 teachers. These teachers are going to kind of guide our conversation for today. So Ms. Shrem is a kindergarten teacher and Mr. Riley is a 3rd grade teacher. Both of them work for Valley Central School District, and recently their school was closed as precautions for COVID-19. And now they're converting to the online remote learning, and they have some questions about how to go about it. How can they promote community through remote learning? How can they communicate with guardians and students using an online platform? How can they assess the learning of their students? How can they make the resources and material accessible for the age group they're working with? So we're going to continue on through this presentation and take a look at all the different subjects through their lens, knowing that younger, that pre-K and kindergarten groups, what are some things that we should consider and can try with them. And then the same thing for Mr. Riley with his older students and that more first, second grade, third grade aspect. So many of you may have already started with remote learning. If you have, please share in that chat what you're doing. What challenges maybe are you still facing? Let us know in the Q&A so we can know where to help you. Maybe you want to dive in deeper on like what you need to know about getting started with content compared to review or scheduling. Let us know in the Q&A, but if you're already doing great things, please share them with us. Before getting started overall, consider some of these. What online platform are your school using? Every platform is different, and if your school already uses one, that's great. Take a tour, figure out, watch online tutorials about what's being used. For example, Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, even things like PowerSchool or Schoology. They're great online learning platforms, and they all offer very unique and different settings and different aspects that you can use for your learners. Consider what resources are also available to you already. For example, if your school pays for educational sites that like your students have accounts for, like iExcel, Raz Kids, or any of those, consider having your students using them at home. That will actually, it doesn't matter if they're home or at school, and some of them can even give you feedback on how the students are doing. Consider the technology available, not just your technology, that meaning like if you're using a laptop or a computer desktop, but what technology is available for your students. Some schools have one-to-one devices, which is great, and the students can have that access to what they're using at home. However, not all schools have that, and we have to take that into consideration. Take inventory about what your students have at home to work with. Are they working with tablets? Are they working with Chromebooks, laptops, desktops? Do they have a webcam? All of these resources, so you know how to build your content around what they have. Also, note the non-negotiable material that you need to teach. We do add a lot of stuff as teachers in through our curriculum throughout the year that can supplement learning or add additional content. But at this point, focus on what is the most important thing you need to review or cover with your students. Before we get started, now you may be wondering, you've gathered your non-negotiables. You've already now figured out how you're going to teach, the platform, the resources available for you, and it's time to think about how are students going to show you the evidence of learning on these platforms. We're going to start with Ms. Shrem, that younger kid age group. One of the best ways to show evidence of learning is through projects. So projects are hands-on, anything that can show students, the teacher, what the students are learning or the content they're getting out of it. So a great example can be the students can be researching different marine marine animals like whales. The teacher gives them books on whales, gives them videos on whales, and so gives all these different cross-curricular topics on whales, and students slowly maybe build a poster board with what they're learning, an online poster board. Or they come up with a model or diagram they invent at home of one species of whales, and then they share it back with their class. Or maybe they're learning doing more STEMs, hands-on material, and they can work on a project over a couple weeks or over a course of a month, and then they present that online or share it with their teacher. Pictures and videos can also be a great resource for teachers right now to see evidence of the students' learning. A parent, if they're able to, can help their child. Also, if your school has permission to post and have these videos and pictures shared based on privacy regulations, parent or guardian at home can take a video of the student doing the learning. Like maybe they're matching socks to work on matching skills. Maybe they're singing a song. Maybe it's a video of them reading, and then they can share that with the teacher. Other ideas can be pictures. If they're doing something by hand, if they are working on a worksheet that you supplied them with, or maybe it's just a picture of something they've gathered or worked on or did that shows learning, they have them take a picture and upload it to that online classroom site. With our little guys though, there are some simple online assessments that you can try with them. So for example, they can do matching activities. You can create online matching, either using Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, for example, where they can match a picture to a letter, A and an apple, or maybe they put different things in size order from biggest to smallest. This is a great tool for them to practice reviewing information, but also can give you that feedback that they need on what they know and don't know. For our older students, pictures, projects, videos, all those hands-on material is great for them as well. But now they can also do a few other things when it comes to online assessments. There's multiple choice and matching quizzes are a great way to go about it. In Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, for example, you can create multiple choice questions for almost anything. You could put a video and then have them answer some questions, either short answer or fill in the blank on the video. Same with questions about reading. You could post a picture of for something for them to read and then answer questions about that. Another great tool is using discussion posts. Having open discussions with the students where they're sharing what they're learning and giving a chance for them to express what they learned that way. Open-ended questions. Exit tickets can still be used as well. During this, at the end of a lesson, you can ask them 3 questions. If you're working with them individually or in small group, ask them what they learned or go ask them about a certain subject, or use a quiz type of assessment to see what they learned quickly. Remember, those are all low stakes assessments though. And some great ways right now, especially if they're a little older, like our 1st and 3rd graders, they can start giving each other and practicing giving each other feedback. This is if they did a presentation on a project to their peers online, they can provide each other feedback, but showing them how to do that in a meaningful and respectful way. Instead of saying just good job or I like your poster, giving feedback on why they like it, because that helps build their communication and collaboration skills, and it also can help each other learn how to receive that good feedback. Now, there's a few other considerations we should take. 1, ask what the guardians can do at home, what we want the guardians to do at home. The next, what are the guardians capable of doing at home? And then now, what the students need. From that kindergarten perspective again, think about asking the guardians the following. Create a daily schedule. We know our students thrive on schedules. Even when they're in that high school setting, they're so used to following a schedule, knowing when lunch is, recesses, when they are playing, when they are napping, when they are learning, and which type of learning they're doing. This is important to them. They thrive on these schedules. Parents may not have the idea of how to create a schedule like this for them. So give them a mock schedule of what the kids' day may look like during the school days. This could mean maybe waking up at 8, breakfast at 8:30, and then even putting in little things of scheduled playtime after, then maybe time to do a little bit of math and then go outside and then read a book. Just to break up their day so the students get used to following a similar routine day after day, just like they do at school. Parents can also demonstrate language, literacy, and math skills that they're using in their daily lives. So for example, cooking, the parent may be cooking a meal or doing something around the house that requires like a simple chore that builds language skills. They can point that out to their learner by explaining what they're talking about, the different math skill that they're using, such as measuring, or maybe they're matching socks, or they're making the bed, practicing those skills. That really does help them build those their language at home. Parents should also know how to communicate challenges to you and not just about their cognitive or learning challenges, but about social, emotional issues they may be having, technology issues that they have at home, and making sure that line for communication is open with the parent for their learner. The parent should also know how to check the learner's online classroom website or blog, and know how to get the information. This is also a great resource for teachers to show where they're going to post all assignments, where they're going to post resources, where they would maybe host online group meetings. So the parent knows where to look for it, and the teacher knows how to, and the teacher knows the expectations to give to their parent. Then asking the guardians to do at home for the older kids would look a little different. Our older kids are very used to what a structured classroom looks like, where they sit at their desk to complete a worksheet or do that more structured learning. Where at the carpet area, it's that reading time where it's not as structured. And then maybe over by the window, that's more of the play area. So again, not as structured learning. Still learning, but different. Creating a workspace where they know where the structured learning takes place makes it clear to them. If I'm sitting, say, at the dining room table, I know I'm creating a worksheet, working on a worksheet, I'm working on my online classroom, I'm doing my concrete schoolwork. Then maybe in the living room where it's a little bit more relaxed, that's where maybe they do their reading or unstructured learning. Parents can also use this time to help teach their children good online digital citizenship skills. This means that the kids don't have the teacher at home at school anymore telling them you shouldn't be sharing your password, or making sure that they're not going to sites that they shouldn't be on. Parents should know how to help their child work responsibly online. Now, since our kids are a little older, like in Mr. Riley's group here, his third graders, they can know how to communicate if they're having a hard time. Ask the parents now if the child's struggling to also have the child reach out to the teacher. For our guardians, we have to think about what they're capable of. Like many others, guardians are probably working at home. Maybe there's several siblings of all different grades and they only have one computer that they're all sharing. Maybe the guardian's not a teacher and they don't know how to go about helping their learner learn. Be flexible, give them time to adjust, allow them to get used to that online platform slowly, where maybe you start with some content and learning at the beginning and the first couple days and you go more in depth throughout. This can still be structured where you can say every Monday at this time we're going to meet, or every Tuesday, Thursday we're meeting at this time online, but you have to be flexible. If they can't meet on those times, offer a variety of times that they can do. Also know that the parents are overwhelmed right now. They don't know how to navigate all of their children's resources as well as the kids might, or you might. So make it as easy as possible for them by having fewer clicks on your online classroom, meaning don't make it difficult for them to navigate their page or resources. Set those clear expectations with them of when due dates are and that you need their help to make sure their child is able to meet those expectations. Consider how you're going to communicate with the parents about those expectations, telling them that we're going to post once a day all of the schoolwork. Put all the work that we do on work that you work on throughout the week, post it on Friday, and knowing those clear deadlines. Now, let's take into consideration what the students need. That individual daily check-in with them will help you know what they need. Students right now need the teachers more than ever to know that they're still here, they're able to support them. But also know that they're missing their friends. It doesn't really matter what grade they're at, where they're all practicing and hopefully practicing social distancing. They can't have play dates. They can't go out to the park and play with their friends. They miss them. They need that communication with them. And on the online classroom, this is a great opportunity for you to promote a place for them to meet some of those social needs that maybe they're not getting at home, as well as giving them a chance to just say hello to their friends that they probably miss and collaborate with them in on their learning. There's different ways you can do that collaboration aspect. Different online platforms allow collaboration just on the site. Also, different collaboration tools like Microsoft Whiteboard and Google Jamboard allow students or the teacher to even write on the computer screen and collaborate with each other through their learning. And that, the last thing, consider the parent, their behavior at home. The kid in the classroom that you see may be a completely different kid at home. They may not be as motivated or have the support needed to complete their schoolwork. Consider supplying parents with like behavior charts or resources to help them there. At this time, I do want to point out in the top left of the screen, we are sharing bit.ly resources with you. The bit.ly resource link, the first one at the top, you'll see that come up a few times in the presentation. We will use that has any app or integration that we talk about during the presentation will be listed there if you would like more information. And then any other resource that we discuss or we have ideas or samples for you, we'll post other bit.ly links for you to see those examples. So now we're going to move into the adjusting classroom material. Many of you, like I said, probably have already started remote teaching, which is great. This is a great chance for you to share what's working in your classroom for all different subjects and how you're going about it. If you have questions about going deeper in your classroom, or if you need help at any way with what you're already doing, let us know in the Q&A and we'll try and answer some of those questions for you. Just so you do know, in the chat, if you raise your hand, that usually indicates that you would like to speak in like a normal Zoom conversation. We're not using that feature of the raised hand in the chat to allow participants to speak. We're asking them if you want to comment or say anything, you can put that in the chat. Or you can, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A tab. We're going to start by talking about morning meeting. I don't know about you, but when I was teaching, I had a morning meeting with my students every day, and it was kind of the concrete part of our day in our daily check-in. For kindergartners, like Ms. Shrem's group, morning meeting may just be even just saying hello to each other, practicing our greeting skills. You can do this in that online virtual classroom by doing a video call with all the students. But before you do a video call with all your students, check your school's policies on if you're allowed to do so, just in case there are different privacy issues within the school. Consider graphing weather online. Students may be shocked to actually find out that their weather at their house may be different than their friend's house. The weather at the school may be different from another place. So they can share with each other online using posts and forums and QAs to learn about each other's weather. This could also be a great time to do a virtual graph together where you talk about the different weather in different areas through your town. Calendar skills are a great way for students to practice sequencing. There's different songs and YouTube channels that play those calendar songs, the days of the year, the songs of the month that we all love. There's also, if you're doing a virtual class meeting with each other, you can practice the what was yesterday, what was today, those important sequencing questions with your class. If you're unable to do that, you can practice this important sequencing skill by having your students draw 5 pictures about their day, what happened, 5 different items, and then placing them in order to practice what happened first, second, and third. Or older kids can maybe do that morning meeting just like Ms. Shrem's group, where they practice saying hello to each other, greeting each other. If this is also maybe the first time you're seeing students after maybe you took a spring break, you took a week or 2 weeks off, and now you're finally getting to virtually see them, just giving them a chance to say hello, ask them how they're doing is very important. I used to play a skip counting game with my kids. There's different ways you can go about doing this online. There's different online games available that I used to play with my kids in my morning meeting. You can continue to do so. right in that virtual meeting that you post. You can even change this to be either an online game between your class where they're maybe posting pictures of different things to play that skip counting game, groups of 5 animals, and then what would be next would be 10 animals. And then you can also do different discussions. During this time, they probably, if don't know much about what's going on, or they have questions about what's happening in the world, or maybe they just want time to have that discussion or check in with their friend, you can supply that through this online morning meeting, or even if it's just once a week, say you're gonna have the whole class come together for this. This is a great time to allow them to just chat with each other and hear each other's thoughts. For read alouds, we can do many things. Doesn't matter quite the grade, reading is important. You can consider at-home reading logs where they print, they have a printed version of a sheet and they turn it into the teacher at the end of the week or month, and they can count the number of books that were read, the pages read, the amount of time they read every night. They could also do things where they're online virtual reading logs, like through a Google or Microsoft form, where they also answer questions about what they read. There are also YouTube channels out there. So if your students don't have books at home to be read to them, YouTube channels like Story Online offer students the opportunity to hear different stories for free. You could also record yourself reading. Be cautious though of copyright laws. It is illegal for some authors do not give permission for their book to be read aloud and recorded. Scholastic though does allow for the end of the school, through the end of the school year in June, for books to be read by the teacher aloud and recorded and then posted to their classroom site for their students, but they just have to be taken down at the end of June. So just investigate about what you're reading first. You can always ask guardians to read with their student at home and build that bond and literacy skills at home. Also consider Microsoft Immersive Reader. So Microsoft Immersive Reader allows students to have material read to them. So if you have information in OneNote or even on Edge, it can read the students what the content on the screen. This is a great tool for those emerging readers who maybe don't have someone to read to them, or for our struggling readers, so our students who are dyslexic and need some more of that decoding help. Now let's move into that English language arts section, since we're already thinking about it. In that pre-K kindergarten group, the teacher can practice building those reading skills, or even if they're a special education teacher wanted to practice reading skills by doing one-to-one video calls. If your school is allowed to do that, you can call each student individually, practice reading, share a story with them by sharing your screen, going through that, even practicing flashcards with them virtually to build those skills. There's a lot of also word work games online, and you can use these games to help build different skills and reading ability and sight words. There's also a lot of literacy songs out there. So there's a YouTube channel called Jack Hartman, and he's has tons of literacy songs about alphabet and different rhyming songs that kids can listen to and just play on repeat to learn more about different ELA skills. Students can also go outside during this time, or even just collect things around their house and learn about labeling them. They can do a scavenger hunt around their house and label all the things. This is the TV, this is a bookshelf, and write the title of it on a sticky note or index card and post it so they can see and review that word every day. Or they can go outside and practice making groups of things. So they collect all these items and they put them into groups and labeling the groups to help build that vocabulary. For our older kids, they can still do the same thing, that one-to-one video call with the teacher. Or the teacher can do a book club group and have a bunch of students who are around the same reading level read one book. They can go through it together online, read it, to discuss it, maybe spend 15 to 30 minutes with each other just reading the book maybe twice a week. And then once they're done, all the groups can work on a presentation together and then share out what they read. Another thing to consider is buddy reading through a video. So students, if they have permission from their parents, can call a friend and video call and when read with each other. Another thing to consider is rating online, giving a chance for the students to type. The teacher can post a creative story or a creative picture and ask students to write a story about it. So maybe the teacher posts a picture of a rainbow, and at the end of the rainbow is the pot of gold, and they ask the students to write, what do you think will happen if you found a pot of gold, or if you ever chased a rainbow, and asking students to think creatively and write it about that online and share it. That way, not just so the teacher can see, but the other students can see the creative work they've come up with. The next one is then word games online. This again is a great place for them to practice those sight word skills, different reading, and your school may have stuff already available. Now, even if you're not in charge of doing the specials for your school, or your kids don't do specials with you, it's still important to try and supplement some of this time for them or give them ideas of how to do it. Art teachers, or if you do a lot of art in your classroom like I used to, there's a lot of online, offline site resources you can use. For example, you can take a video of yourself doing simple crafts, say with makerspace supplies, or even with simple markers and paper that you may find around your house, and then posting tutorials of how to do it online. Also, the author Mo Williams, I don't know if you've heard of him. I highly recommend reading his books. If you have not, they're great children's books, but he's doing how-to tutorials on drawing his characters from his stories every day. Also, autodraw.com allows students to draw online using a mouse, or if they have a touch screen, and what they can do is then share what they drew using a URL link. For music, there's plenty of YouTube channels and videos that students can watch. The videos can also be informational about a certain instrument or a type of music. And there's also apps like Chrome Music Lab, where students can actually play music virtually online. Physical education is also one of the most important ones to give students suggestions for. We know that at school sometimes is the only time they get to run around and play. Phys ed teachers and teachers can give ideas of different nutritional resources or different meals that parents can share with their students, or cooking together and going about how to be healthy together, and also giving them maybe ideas of different physical education activities that they can be doing. Having a dance party where you play freeze dance, playing runaround games outside, or running up and down the driveway and timing how fast they can run. Or even doing things where the whole family can be included, like going on a hike or walk together in their neighborhood. Also consider virtual field trips. This is a great resource even once you're back in the classroom. If you don't have time to go to a museum or the funding or the resources, you can go visit museums virtually. You can visit zoos and aquariums and places all over the world. Skype in the Classroom, so it's called skypeintheclassroom.com, offers, I want to say, thousands of different resources for different virtual field trips. This was something I used to do with my class all the time, where we'd go to zoos and aquariums or visit historic sites. Then let's move into math. For our younger guys, you can do things like a bingo board, where every single day the kid has to complete a different task on the board and try and get bingo. They can start by playing some computer games, making that fun and interactive for them. Then maybe they use Math Shelf. So Math Shelf is an app that can be downloaded onto a tablet. And what's great about Math Shelf, because it's pre-K and kindergarten based, is it has kids first take a test to figure out where they should be placed, where they know already. And what's great about Math Shelf that way is then it places them into a level, and they get to play these games where they start building their math fluency. After they, and also with Math Shelf, it does give the teacher knowledge about how long they've used it, when they use it, how long they do it, and data about how well they're doing. You could also do things on a bingo board about finding two things that inside that match, or two things outside that match, or two types of flowers that look the same. So getting them used to finding different resources around them. And then of course, completing puzzles, or even going outside again and finding 10 leaves and placing them in a line from biggest to smallest. Some other considerations could be that math and nature aspect with flowers, counting petals, seeing how many rocks you can find, or even considering what, making a map of their town and figuring out how many steps it takes go from their house to their driveway. Puzzles, they don't have to be online, or if they don't own a puzzle, they can make one. They can draw a picture and practice cutting it up and putting it back together. You can do a shape scavenger hunt around your home. It could be a theme where one week it's all about squares, and the students can find anything that makes a square shape around their house and report it back to a teacher. Next is the math songs. There's so many math YouTube songs that can be played for your students. You can share it with them to practice skip counting or math fluency, or even just simple number recognition. For our older students, they can still do the same thing with the math bingo board, where they complete one thing a day. They can still do math computer games, and they can also go around and figure out how math is used outside or do puzzles, but maybe they're gonna need something that's a little bit more supplemental for our older grade. So Freckle Math is another math site where teachers can assign work to their students for free, where the teacher gets data back about how well the student's doing. So that maybe they do Freckle Math or another math resource like that twice a week for 15 minutes to keep practicing their math fluency. And that way the teacher also gets data still about how well they're doing and how long they're playing. They can practice cooking with their parents, knowing what doubling a recipe may mean versus cutting a recipe in half. That helps build fraction skills and multiplication. There's a lot of math online resources and games. Math Playground is another place where they can play games right online. Maybe they want to make a shopping store in their house, a grocery store, or make a toy store with all their toys and practice giving currency to go with it. Or maybe in the online classroom, the teacher has a virtual store where students get virtual money for completing tests, and they can purchase things and practice adding and subtracting money when they make purchases, say for an online sticker. Also, creating maps is a great cross-curricular activity for the learner, as well as to learn about math and social studies at the same time. They can practice using key vocabulary such as longitude, latitude, compass, all those great math skills, but apply it to the mathematical aspect. Design a bedroom. Map out what it looks like inside your house. Measure what the rooms are using a ruler or how long they are. Go outside, map your community, map your town, map what your road looks like, and coming up with how far it would take them to walk from one house to the other. It's a great resource for them to learn how to do those map skills, but also do it in a fun way that promotes math and social studies. For science, there's a lot of great resources out there for all of our students. Again, for STEM or any sort of science thing, projects can be a great tool. You can assign different readings and videos and even help guide them through a topic that interests them, and then they can share it out with their peers. There's also a lot of science in nature. Maybe your class wants to all become botanists and it becomes a theme, and your students record what plants and trees they see in their own backyard or in their neighborhood, and then they record it online in that classroom remote classroom. Or maybe you're all going to become bird watchers and you record all the birds that you can see at each other's homes in your online classroom and practice describing them and how to look it up, what type of species they are. There's also a lot of science and exercise. This is a great opportunity for students to realize that if they're outside playing basketball, there's potential energy, there's kinetic energy that they are using right then and there when they're playing. Also, with pushes and pulls and different forces of motion that they're using daily in their lives, they can apply it now by learning about what science is in those exercises and then actually doing them and demonstrating them. You could also consider doing weather or moon journals. Students can go outside every night and watch the moon, look up at the sky, draw pictures of what they're seeing, describe it with words, and then communicate it back online. Or maybe they keep that online journal. Maybe they're doing the same thing for the weather. And then at the end of the month, you go through and see what everyone in the class was able to see. For social studies, there are so many online resources out there, so many different stories and websites. This can be a great way to also tie social studies into those ELAR skills. So you can provide a reading about a historical event. Or, so for example, Memorial Day is coming up. You can supply a reading about what is Memorial Day, a video about what's Memorial Day, and tying it into some of those ELA skills so it covers some multiple subjects at the same time. Those videos, again, are so important. Students can maybe share what they're interested in videos when it comes to history as well. Consider whole group historical plays. Give students a chance to learn lines or do this during your morning meeting where you practice it every day and you act out a different historical event. Maybe you are acting out the Revolutionary War and you have different characters like Martha and George Washington that students act out. Also, making family trees is a great way for students to learn about their own identity, as well as their culture and their family. They can go simple, who's in their household, where were they from, can they learn about those people at home. It can go more in depth about knowing where their family came from, if they're came from another country, what's it like in that country, and doing research about their heritage. For our English language learners, there's a lot of resources out there still for them as well. Flipgrid is a great free resource where students can engage with the teacher in a few different ways. The teacher can maybe post a discussion question, and then the students then respond and answer it, and they start building a conversation and practicing conversational skills by making videos. That's also could be something that you use in the general classroom, not just for English language learners. The ENL teacher could also do a video call with the student and push into one of the classes that they're taking with the general teacher and supply them some of that support or giving them resources at home to practice without them. There's online games out there as well. BrainPop English language learners, so BrainPop ELL right now is offering free games for the remainder of the school year to help build English language learners' English skills, where they start with a placement test and then they learn and build their skills, work on it every day. You can also use apps like Google Translate and Microsoft Translate to communicate with the student, to help the teacher communicate with the student, or even communicate with the families if they don't speak English as well. For our social emotional learning aspect, there's plenty of apps out there. There's a Sesame Street app where students can practice mindfulness skills. You can continue to have those daily check-ins, check in with them individually, call home, see how the families are doing, see what support you can supply. There's online videos that talk about yoga, mindfulness, that you can supply your learner with. Also, Go Noodle, which can be great for different runaround activities, dances, and stretches for more of that physical aspect, also has SEL videos as well. And then School Day is a K through 12 app where the schools can gather data about their students' social emotional status. School Day right now came out with a special School Day at Home feature where administrators and the school day, the teachers can see how their students are by taking surveys, supplying them with one-to-one emotional learning support, all just through a simple app or clicking through the surveys using their computer. And then it also lets the administration know how well remote learning is going for them, what they think of remote learning, and how maybe if they need to change something about that. So let's check back in with Ms. Shrem and Mr. Riley about all of these integrations. They say this is great. There's so many ways to continue the learning and provide resources for their students in that online classroom. They've learned we can supply their students with a safe space to meet their social and emotional needs by checking in with them. They can consider different forms of assessment, such as projects. They can make parents part of the online classroom community by considering what are their needs and by communicating what their expectations are. They can provide students with online and offline resources. So right now, we are going to open up that Q&A. If you haven't done so already, we would love to hear from you what you are interested in or what questions you have, anything that you would like to know about. Please let us know in that Q&A right now.
Michelle, there's a question about the difference between Flipgrid and Seesaw and how to use Flipgrid with Google Meet. So I don't know if or how you want to break that up, or let me know.
So I'll first kind of go into like the basis of Flipgrid. So I've never used it as like a Google Meet or through a video call. So Flipgrid makes videos itself. When I've used it in my classroom, I make my own account as the teacher. I give the students the login credentials and how to log in, how to post. But what I do with them is I tell them, okay, here's the question or what you're going to discuss. They make a video themselves at home, and then the other students can comment on their videos or reply with videos. I don't know.
It's like a video chat board, and so it integrates with Google Classroom. It integrates with Microsoft Teams. It's designed to facilitate this asynchronous conversation. So whereas Google Meet and what we're doing right now is everybody's online at the same time and we're answering questions in real time, Flipgrid is designed for the teacher to be able to post a prompt, and then students can log in whenever they can, and they record their video. So it's like a discussion board through video. So it's facilitating that conversation as opposed to, and now jumping over to the difference between Flipgrid and Seesaw. Flipgrid, you can post activities and they can, students and teachers can post their own videos. You can do some of that in Seesaw as well, but Seesaw is a more robust platform. Teachers can have their own blog pages. There's more direct communication with parents and guardians who are in there. So they really serve two different purposes, even though at the base level, they do some of their features overlap.
Yeah, if you already use Seesaw, you can continue to just use that. If you don't use it and you're looking for a way to integrate them, you can do it that way.
There was another question about SEL. I just want to make sure we talked about, Michelle, you mentioned that. There was another question. So the person who asked, I'm trying to find that in the list, who asked about SEL, make sure to post again if we didn't answer your question. A question about IEPs, servicing IEPs, and how we can manage that in this time. So I'm going to let you speak to that because you have some experience.
Yeah, so during this time in the US, every state has different regulations on what is used and what can be done for students who have IEPs or 504s or need accommodations in some ways. So first you need to know what is your state's policy and what is your state doing. So for New York, for example, says every school district can figure it out for themselves and what the school district wants. Some school districts still have to have CSC meetings and continue to follow their IEPs of their students and figure out how to do that virtually. And some are saying if you can't supply the services to the student, then you have to find another way to give them content that they can do independently. A great way to go about this is first check in with your administration about how to reach students with IEPs. You can do this by doing one-to-one calls, practicing one-to-one reading. So for example, my mom is a special education teacher and I've been watching her virtually every day. She's meeting one-to-one with students And sometimes she'll have the ENL teacher or the speech teacher sit with her, and they, the three of them, the speech or ENL teacher and my mom, who's the special education teacher, will meet with the one student, and they maybe practice math skills for 15 to 30 minutes and going through that one-to-one on time to work on those goals and objectives that they need. Or they're reading with each other and working on those literacy goals that they have in their IEP. But again, since it's so vastly different for every school district and every state, check with your administration about what to use and what's allowed.
Michelle, there's questions hanging out that all pretty much are grouped around the same thing. What is the difference between Seesaw and Microsoft Teams? Which platform is better? Is ClassDojo or Seesaw better? So, excuse me, they all are facilitating communication between families and students. Teams is probably the most advanced in terms of like assigning and grading and being able to attach rubrics and that sort of thing. I can't tell you which one is better or worse because it really depends on what you already have. If your school is set up and already using Teams, your learning curve and your time frame for getting started is going to be shorter there than it would be for trying to set up ClassDojo from the very beginning. So they're all good programs and they all do good things. I can't recommend which is better because you are going to have to work with the people in your school and your district to find out what is going to work for your situation. So I know you're looking for the magic bullet and I wish I could give you that, but the best thing is to look into those and see which ones meet your needs or talk to other teachers who are using it and see what the benefits are. It's
with all of them, for Seesaw and ClassDojo, you should know that some states have decided you can't use them based on policy. So in New York State, a lot of public schools have said that they do not want teachers using ClassDojo anymore because of its privacy. It's a privacy issue. If your school allows it, that's great. And you want to continue using it, that's great for you. Like Erin said, it's all about what you're using and what you know how to use. If you're already using one, why make it more difficult on yourself by learning something else? They all do great things.
A new question just came in about keeping 3-year-olds engaged during a Zoom meeting. Yeah, that's definitely a tough one. I keep them short. Try to accommodate as many people joining when they can. I think there was a question about, I can't remember if it was this one or the previous one, about what to do for people who are joining late. I think we just have to extend as much flexibility and a lot of grace in this time period. Everybody's doing the best that they can. And so, you know, for the 3-year-old in the Zoom meeting, reading a story, doing as much as is familiar to them so they can sort of attach what they already know to the meeting and this new format. So if you already do something with the calendar, maybe do a quick calendar meeting. If you already do something with a puppet that's in your classroom, or you're doing felt board activities, something that they know so that it's familiar and they can attend even though they're not attending in a way that they are used to. Yeah, music for 3-year-olds, get them dancing. We mentioned Jack Hartman. Harry Kindergarten is another online channel. I'm trying to look at what's coming in. There is a recording. So what will happen is when we close out this meeting in about 5 minutes, you are going to be presented with a link to a survey. And then people who fill out that survey will get the link to the recording and a certificate. Those are I couldn't remember the other thing. So you'll get a link to the recording and a certificate.
Well, the link to the survey, you don't get a certificate till after you do the survey. So if
that's what I'm saying.
PD or a webinar, a certificate that states that you did this as a form of PD, you complete the survey at the end of today's webinar, and that'll help you get it. And within 48 hours, you'll be emailed the recording.
The link to the recording, yep.
Just to clarify what I was saying about Class Dojo, because I saw that that was a question that was coming back up. Some states and, for example, like New York, I know has said that they don't like using Class Dojo because of privacy. Class Dojo, this was at the beginning of the year in September. I don't know if Class Dojo has changed their policy settings, but they didn't like the New York State overall from NYSA that it would interfere too much with student privacy. And there are new New York State for public schools privacy laws that came out this year. So for example, last year I was using Class Dojo in my classroom. I probably wouldn't use it this year based on the different things they're saying about privacy for it. Please look it up. Also, anytime you want to use an app, Seesaw or Class Dojo or Microsoft or Google, anything where you want to post pictures of students, videos of students, or any of that, check with your school. What is your school's policy first? Your school will let you know what you're allowed to post and not post online.
Yeah, we've heard about some schools, districts that are required to record anytime you're meeting with students online, whether it's individual or group, that it has to be recorded because it has to be stored as part of the communication that's happening between teachers and students. So we can't stress that enough to make sure you read the privacy policies of these apps. You know, everybody's opened this up to be free, but we still need to make sure that we're reading those agreements, even though we don't always read those agreements. But it's especially important now because it's not just you logging in and showing your students in a classroom and they don't have direct access. We're talking about a new paradigm here, and we're having people access from their own access points. So it's really important that you check that out. Check with your library and media specialist, check with your school regulations, what's allowed, like Michelle said, what's allowed by your school, your district, your state. Your principal, your IT director, your library and media specialists are all going to be really helpful when it comes to those aspects. We have just a few minutes left. If there's any questions that we didn't address, pop those in the Q&A right now. Suggestions for world languages apps. Yikes. There's one that I'm thinking of. Go ahead, Michelle.
I know it depends on if you're trying to learn language for the kids or if you need that ELL aspect. So I would first want to clarify that, but I don't know what you were going to say, Erin.
There's some apps that I can't think of right now, so I'm just going to stop talking.
But there are resources out there for teaching kids language, but we are pretty much out of time. This has been a great hour with you. Just so you know, we are here for you. If you have further questions or concerns or you want us to look into something, please let us know. Email us at info@Eduscape. We will have other events coming up. You can check them out on the Eduscape website. We also have an Eduscape Educator Facebook community. You can check this out by using that link right there at the top. This is a great place where you can continue the conversation, sharing resources, sharing ideas, knowing what's working in your classroom, what's going great. You can continue that conversation from the chat online in that Facebook group.
Yep, I just pasted that link in the chat. And Timothy, go for it with Flipgrid. It's actually really easy to set up, and there's a ton of resources. If you don't know what to ask or how to start, it's all there for you. It's
a lot of fun. I loved using it.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is almost zero. Print out the chat message. You can, if you copy and paste, like you click and select all of the text, you can copy and paste that into a document. You can't export it, but you can click and drag or like scroll through to find the things that you want. You are welcome for all of this information. We're happy to share it with you. You guys, we're on the front lines. We're all doing as much as we can, as fast as we can. And so we're happy to support you with that, but give yourselves credit because we're all figuring out what school looks like now.
Yes, thank you all. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, please reach out to us. Let us know. We're here for you.
Thank you, Melissa. That feedback is great for us. Make sure you put all your comments in the survey.
Perfect.
That link will pop up as soon as we close this. So we are going to be done. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.